Hello! So recently I have been working on an application where there is a list of sports games, and whenever a new game is created, it is sent to all the users as an email. And the users receive this kind of email that there is going to be a game and it is added to their calendar. So you see, all the users receive this kind of calendar invite where they have the name of the game, the time when it starts and ends, the location, an event organizer, and it is automatically added to their calendar like this. If you click it in the calendar, you can see a few attachments and you can see a description and a URL to watch this game. And by default, the status of participation is actually set to yes. So that's also really cool. And you see you can add you can look at it in Google Maps. Now, but how does Google know that I'm actually sending this kind of file, and how do I send this kind of calendar file? Well, if you scroll down, you will see this attachment. So there is this .ics file, and if I download this file, this is actually where all this magic happens. So I download this file with .ics extension, and let me open it in VS Code. So if I open it in the code editor, you see there is this file with a specific format where there is a start time, end time, a description with a URL, a location, an organizer, a status of being confirmed, and a summary, so the title. And you see when an email client receives any email with an attached .ics file, it will treat it correctly. So in the case of Google, it will display this kind of nice preview, and if required, it will automatically attach it inside the calendar. So we're going to do this kind of thing using Ruby on Rails in this episode. And we're going to start from an application I've already slightly developed. So what I've done, I've created a scaffold of games. So a game has a start time, end time, title, description, and address. And here I've got a list of games that I have added via seeds. Some are in the past and some are in the future. So let's create calendar invites for all these games. And to create this kind of valid .ics files that will work in this format using Ruby on Rails, we are going to use the gem iCalendar. So let's start by installing this iCalendar gem inside our application. I will say bundle add iCalendar. Okay, once again, there was an error. Okay, maybe because I have added it already. So let me say git clean fd, git reset hard, and now bundle add iCalendar. Now by running git clean fd and reset hard, I have basically removed all my uncommitted work, and now I have once again added the gem to the gem file. So here I've added gem iCalendar. Let me say git status. I've only changed my gem file at the moment, and let's create an iCalendar event. So here we have this example of requiring iCalendar. We create a new calendar, and inside the calendar we create a new event. So we will want to use this kind of code, but adopt it for games in our application. So here we have a list of games. So the first place where I think of doing it would be the game model. So here I will just add this code, but for start I will have starts at. For end I will have ends at. For summary I will have title. For description I will have the game description, and IP class can be private or public, but this doesn't matter really much at the moment. But when I actually send real emails, I would more likely make it public. So we have this calendar event, and we say publish, and we need to wrap it into something. So we're going to display this game in this iCal format. So I will say def2 iCalendar, and let's wrap it all into a def, just like this. So here we have require iCalendar, and we have this method to turn the game into this iCalendar format. We have the start time, end time summary, description, and IP class. So I think only the most essential things that we need to create this file. Let's now try to display this result. I will go to the game partial and say equals game.toICalendar. What will it show us? Okay, let's start the server, Rails S. And we have this word publish. Why do we have the word publish? Because here it is the last thing that we called. So let's return this calendar itself. And here we have an iCalendar object. So let's turn it to iCalendar, let's say to ICS, or actually to iCal. And here we already have a string that really looks like this .ics file. So it has the correct resemblance, but how do we not just display the string, but download this as a file? So an easy approach would be to have a URL that would return the game /id/.ics that would download this text as an ICS file. So we would go to our games controller, and inside the show action we have a possibility to respond to the format HTML by default, and we will also respond to format.ics. So let's say respond to format. We have format.html, and we'll have format.ics, and we will have a link. So we'll say link to add to calendar, and we'll have game path, add game, and format will be ICS. So when you click this link, it will go to the games controller show action and format ICS. Let's see if it works. I have this add to calendar, I click, and you see it returns the correct controller action, but it is missing a template. So I will go back here and say so format ICS do, and here we are going to render plain add game dot to iCalendar. Let's refresh. Okay, I need to make it like this. I refresh, and you see I have downloaded some kind of file. I will click the file, and you see it is adding this Alpine Skiing event to my calendar. Let's go back once again. So you see it is Alpine Skiing on the 2nd of January 1923 to 2123. And here is the description that also matches. So I have successfully added this event to my calendar. And if I open, yeah, seems to be working. So let me try once again. I will click add to calendar. I will add this event to the calendar, and you see it has been added to the calendar. So it seems to be working. Now there are a few things that we can improve here. So let's start by also adding the address. So here in the game.rb we will say event.address equals the address that we already have inside the game. So we will be adding the address. And let's re-download this event once again. Okay, undefined method address. Let's have a look. Undefined method address. Why do we have undefined address? Let's maybe say self.address. And it is still undefined. Let's say if address.present. And it is still not working. Interesting. Let's say self game self.address works. Okay, maybe this address is not valid. Let's see. So here we don't have address, we have location. Okay, I don't see location by default here, but I just remember that it should be a location. So event.location equals address. Let's see if this works for us. I will click add to calendar, download it once again. And here you see we have an added address. So here no location, and here we do have a location. So big difference. But we have another problem. You see, we have two somewhat similar events. Let me download yet another event and click add it to the calendar, and you see we have three events that should be the same. So we need to be able to tell the calendar that this should be just one event. So to do this, we're going to give it a UID. So we'll have e.uid equals just the ID of this game. And another important thing, we will say e.sequence equals time.now.toInteger. So this is just going to be the moment of time when you downloaded this event. And this way you know that if you change the time of the event, the latest version will be used. So let me demonstrate. Now I'm going to download. Okay, we have undefined integer. So let's say id.toString, and I will download an event to the calendar. And now I will change the time. Let's make it an hour earlier. And download the event once again to the calendar. So I click on this event, and you see the time has been updated. And an extra event has not been created. So the calendar understood that this is the same event. And here we have, here's the date stamp that we have added. Well, location, we see it all in this iCalendar string. Let me try removing the sequence, refresh. And you see the string has also been made smaller. So yeah, generally there's a couple of things that I would be always adding to events. Now, what if we want to include a URL? So if we go to the documentations, there is an example of attaching a URL, URI, or let's try URL search. So we can have an event URL. Let's try adding the event URL. Let's say event.url equals the path to this game. So we'll say something like game path. But as we want it to be accessible not only from our application but externally, let's say game URL. So let's see if this would work for us. Okay, wrong place. I would see, you see, undefined method game URL. So we need to say that we should be able to use roots here. So I would say include rails.application.roots.url helpers. Let me refresh once again. And UI generation error, missing key ID. So I would say game URL self and missing host to link to. So set default URL options. So this would be something I would be doing in development.rb. Actually, I solved it a short time ago. I would add default URL options to localhost in development.rb here. And I would need to restart the server to make it work. Otherwise, the changes will not take effect. So I will click add to calendar, and you see there is a URL here. So looks quite good. And there is another thing I would want to improve. You see here we just have the ID of the game in the file that we downloaded, but we want it to give us more information. For example, the game title, or the game title and the game ID. So we would need to update the way we download these game files. So I would go back to the games controller, and instead of saying render plane, I would say send data. The data will be game to iCalendar, and I would say file name will be, let's try game.title. And I will remove this line, and let's see if it works. So I click add to calendar. Yes, sure, I need to say add game. And you see we have the game title. But we also need to have .ics in the end for it to be read by the calendar application. So I will need to say game title.ics like this. Let me see. I've refreshed this page, it has re-downloaded and it is an ICS file. So it seems to be working. Looks good. And I think this is it for this episode. We learned how to use different options, I would say all the most important options of generating a calendar event. We've added URLs. Okay, yeah, there's another really important thing. So this is really small code that we have added. You shouldn't add this kind of code inside the game model. You see, we've got require iCalendar, allow URL helpers. This code should not live in the game model. It should live in a separate service. So I would go and create a separate folder inside app. I would go and name it services. And inside services, I would create another folder named games. And inside games, I would create some kind of file named iCalendar event.rb. And I would say class games iCalendar event, and I would extract all this code here. So how can we do it? First of all, I will have require calendar and include URL helpers here. Then we would have some kind of method for initialize, and we're going to pass in a game. Then we'll have at game equals game, and we'll have a method named call. And you would be able to call this method by saying games iCalendar event.new. Game will be, let's say, game.first dot call. And this call would return us this iCalendar event. So let's move it all into the call method. Like this. So we have iCalendar calendar new. Date start will be at game.starts@, and here everywhere I'm going to prepend the word game. So game ID, game URL at game, and let's see if this works. I will try calling it in the console. The cool thing is that you'll be able to call this code from basically anywhere inside your application. So let's call it, and you see it is valid. So instead of having all this code that shouldn't live in your model, we are going to create a service and extract it into the service. And here inside the game's controller, the data that we are going to send will be not at game to iCalendar, but it will be, let me just comment that out, it will be this command. So game equals this. Like this. Let's say game ICS to be more concrete. Let's go back. I will start the server once again. Request once again. You see I'm just on this URL, so I don't have to like click a download button. And it seems to be working. Okay, let's just try once again. So game to iCalendar obviously doesn't work anymore because we have commented it out. So now I will click add to calendar, and okay, it's working. So I've added this, where is the Alpine? Okay, no, I've actually added the wrong game because here I have just game first. Yeah, I should say add game, sure. So add to calendar. Okay, it is added. Let me go back to games. I will select any other game like table tennis or let's say boxing. I will click add to calendar. I have downloaded this game and I have added it to my calendar. So seems to work well. And I think it is all you need to know about being able to generate an ICS file and download it into your application. And I think in the next episode we're going to work on actually sending it as a calendar invite via email. And another important thing, so to learn more about different methods inside this ICS format, like what we have here, like IP class private or public, location, UID, and other stuff, you can reference this documentation. So if you look for something like tentative, you see there are different types of this event, like taking up all the spot time in the calendar or not, or like participation status. You can also update the participation status of a person in the event. So there are still a few options that you can explore, and that we might also explore in the next episode. But I think we're done for right now. It's enough, and yeah, thanks for being with me. Goodbye.